Hey everybody, welcome back to BFD.
I'm Ken, bro!
Whoa,
Yo!
that's right. Jake's here. Whoa, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you can't tell by my off-pink colored shirt and Jake's obviously better looking shirt, we went and saw the Barbie movie. Today we are doing the Barbenheimer challenge. If it's
The
a
Barbenheimer challenge?
the
Yeah.
Barbenheimer challenge. So we're going to go see Oppenheimer after this review.
Upside down.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
no. So we're going to go see Oppenheimer after this, but before we go and see Oppenheimer, we wanted to go over what our thoughts were on the Barbie movie, and let's just get into it.
Right out the gate, mid.
I told Jake within 5 minutes that I wanted to walk out of the theater. The biggest problem that this movie has is that it is essentially, it's like reading a non-fiction book for the plot.
Yeah, pretty much.
The entire movie is one giant lecture with some really fun visual elements in between.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
We'll get into that part, but
Yeah.
first, they did a great job with marketing on this one.
Yeah.
That theater was packed.
Yes.
And when we were leaving,
there was a line out of the theater, which I had never seen before. And we went in at 12:45, and it was, like Jake said, it was packed. And somebody took our seats, and so we wound up taking somebody else's seats. And they went in to go sit next to us, and I tried not to make eye contact because it was a little awkward. But, whatever.
They did a great job of marketing. Nobody really knew what this movie was about, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
And still kind of don't.
No, you could definitely tell nobody knew what this movie was really about because there were a lot of small children in the movie,
Yes.
and I don't think it was really geared towards them. It seemed to be more so geared towards their mothers and people with art degrees.
But I will say,
Hmm?
the use of Barbie, however you want to call that, the Barbification, was done well. I
Yeah.
think. I'm not a Barbie fan necessarily, and unlike Sonic 2 or 1, the movies, I am still not a Barbie fan, but they definitely leaned into the toy aspect well. I mean, there was a lot of references, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, like the her wardrobe being like the box when you open it, and instead of Barbie walking down outside of the house, she just floats down like somebody's picking her up and putting her down. Little things like that. The whole kind of toy effects whenever something action happens. Yeah, that was enjoyable. I thought that was pretty unique just from a visual standpoint. I was like, oh wow, that's something that we don't see a lot. So I definitely appreciated that.
They did it and it looked cool.
Yeah, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the comedy a little bit.
I didn't have a great time in the movie. However, anytime something funny happened, I laughed. I think it's like a branch of awkward humor or something maybe, but it's very self-aware, not ironic, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, which is like the theme of the movie.
Yeah, a little bit. But anytime, Ken, my favorite part of the film. I thought Ken was hilarious.
I also like Ken, but I like that Ken, not the other Ken.
Yes. Anytime he would laugh, sort of like a masculine defense, he would go, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Instead of the, laugh. There was sort of this incel vibe, but I do think it was made a bit funnier because it was Ryan Gosling as sexy Ryan Gosling.
Right.
Which was done better than Harry Styles in Don't Worry Darling, where he was just an incel.
Yeah. Which this movie, I guess, could be called Don't Worry Barbie. Because it's pretty much that. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the comedy for a lot of it. I mean, comedy's subjective, not everything hit for me, but there were a lot of times that I did audibly laugh in the movie. And you know what? If you can say nothing else about it, if you're an adult, you will think it's funny. If you're a kid, you'll go, Barbie!
Barbie.
And that's about it, because you're not going to understand anything that's going on. Like Jake was saying earlier, it's an interesting use of IP for a movie. It's not what I expected it was going to be, and Jake is the same way, but I do find that fascinating just as a case study. And would I rather get something like Barbie versus something like Battleship? I mean, at least Barbie's like interesting.
I haven't seen Battleship.
It's not good, but Rihanna's in it.
Oh. This one lady walked up and said, "Do you have the time?" And he went, "Oh, you respect me."
It's weird, man, but it's kind of funny.
It is funny. But I think that sort of ties into the theme, multiple themes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Which we will talk about now.
For the most part, it felt like the film was a very feminist, in-your-face, 2023 like thing, But there were yes, very preachy. But there were also some other tones of like masculinity and like anti-corporate stuff, which I thought that they were going to play into more, other than just mentioning it. But then the resolution didn't include those things.
Right. Well, I think they were more so offshoots of that theme.
Right.
And they were like, because without getting too political, it's just a mesh of an entire one ideology. So if it's a feminist film, no, it's a left-leaning film. Like it's just like a left-wing film. Because yes, it includes feminism as its main core, but everything off of it also happens to follow like it is a very partisan film in that respect. And so you could say, well, I mean, feminism leads to the idea of being anti corporate or anti-capitalist, or
they all sort of coincide.
Right.
It's all a part of
you can make that argument, but for one film to encapsulate all of that and still try to tell a central story about essentially 3 or 4 people, it's a bit much. It's just like, stick to your lane. You can make offhand comments, but like Jake said, they did try to thematically bring those together, and it was weird.
It was, and it didn't mesh. It wasn't cohesive. It was sort of passing lines that would come up again, which I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
It is hard to tell 5 different themes that are sort of contradictory in some way in the same one. I think Nope suffered from that same problem.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, it was a very politically charged film. And I really thought it was going to be a sort of ironic take to it, and it wasn't. Because they were being very blatant at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be sort of the reverse. Why? It's destructive, maybe. And it wasn't. It ended up not being the case. And we got towards the end, and Ken and all the Kens are disregarded. That's a word, right?
Yeah.
By all the Barbies. I thought there was going to be some sort of revelation for the Barbies to be like, oh, we're not treating them right. That's why they took over.
Right. And that was never addressed.
And that didn't happen. But I felt like it should have, and I felt like that's sort of where they were going. But
well, that's where it would have gone if it was made like 15 years ago. And so the problem, and Jake is absolutely right on the point of this, but the problem starts off where you see that it's Barbie land, women rule everything, they're every level from the presidency to the Supreme Court to the construction workers, which is a woman's favorite job. They, for some reason, insist on, keeping the men to roles that do not matter in their society, like at all.
Well, and it's sort of like, and I kind of was thinking this too, it's sort of a role reversal, trying to be like, oh, men, don't you see this is how it was for us? Right.
And so the setup on there, it's like, oh, okay, that will be interesting, because she's going to go to the real world, she's going to see how women are treated in the real world, and then she'll empathize and go, maybe we don't want to be like them, because, men rule every single aspect of the real world, outside of the vice presidency and, parts of the Supreme Court and, other corporate boards. But anyway, yeah, so because men rule every single aspect of the world and women contribute absolutely nothing to the world, like, the creation of every human being, since they don't have anything to offer, oh, wow, that makes me feel bad. So when I go back to my home and I see that we do that to a group of people that are all, I guess, biologically on the genetic same side, and they don't have anything to offer this society. Oh, maybe we shouldn't treat them as though they're disposable, like we were treated in the real world. And no, they don't do that. Actually, at the end of the day, they're like, oh, actually, we're taking all the power back because we did it democratically.
Yeah.
And you know what they say? The majority should always win, no matter what, because fuck the other 49%.
Oh,
yeah.
And I thought, and again, I thought they were gonna wrap it up nicely when one of the Kens was like, oh, can we have at least one house on the Barbie Supreme Court?
Yeah. And
she went, nope.
She said, no, we'll give you some lower court appeals. And then the narrator's like, and maybe one day they'll get as much power as women have right now. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Who runs Star Wars?
Now, the narrator, it really has me a bit confused on this because
It seems tongue-in-cheek.
It does. It does. And that's where I'm like, is Greta Gerwig saying the opposite of this? Because the narrator breaks the fourth wall and addresses a few of those things. One of them being, if the filmmakers wanted to show that Barbie doesn't have to be perfect, they shouldn't cast Margot Robbie.
Right. Which was really funny.
And Greta Gerwig wrote that.
Right. And the narrator is a self-insert for the writer. Almost all the time. Not all the time, but almost all the time. Especially when they're like an omniscient narrator, right? And so that was Greta Gerwig's voice, unfiltered, right, in the scenes. And on the one hand, by the way, I'm glad that the narrator didn't just come in the end, or come in the beginning and then the end. I'm glad that there was some inserts in between. A lot of movies don't do that for some reason. It's really weird. Yeah, it does, like Jake said, it seems really tongue-in-cheek. But at the same time, I think it's meant to sound like it's tongue-in-cheek to help maybe the nastiness of this movie's message go down your throat better, essentially. That's what I think it is. And I'm not trying to say anything about anybody's character. I'm just saying in terms of getting across your theme that if women are oppressed in real world, men should be oppressed in Barbie world. That's kind of a nasty thing to say.
Well, it's not progress.
Well, no, it's not equality. This movie is anti-equality, and at the end of the day, most people in the West are totally fine with equality.
Well, and so this is another sort of idea that I thought, okay, maybe they're going to play into this a little bit. There's a sequence, I forget what it is, but basically it's sort of revealed that Ken just wants to protect and care for Barbie. Again, it's a passing line.
They're like, you silly, stupid bitch.
And so I thought that they were going to play with this idea of why the Kens were revolting is because the Barbies didn't give them what they wanted and or needed.
It's just one of those things. It's like the whole point of the movie, like Jake said, is that Kens are the incels or the Redditors, and you know, all they want is to have some value in the society because they don't feel valued by Barbie Land, by the powers that be. And so basically the response to that, so the film says, is, well, they shouldn't have anything to do because they are useless, they are pointless. And then, wow, a violent overthrowing takes place. Who would have ever seen that coming? Like, it's just, again, it's they have an idea here, and they said, all right, here's our Barbie idea. It's going to be politically charged. And instead of coming together with some unifying vision, which it doesn't have to be like a milquetoast kind of like, can't we all just get along? You know, like, you can make concessions on each side and have like a message about, hey, it's hard to live together with different kind of people, but we want to because that's the values that we like. We like diversity. We like equity. We like inclusion. But yeah, no, at the end of the day, it's just like, actually, if all you Kens could just stay on the beach and not really do anything
and beach each other off.
Yeah, beach each other off, then we're good here. And so it's kind of fucked up, actually.
And there was also this really, really sad theme about living in the real world is better than living in the Barbie world, which I thought was great, but they kind of didn't
Well, also like the kind of ancillary theme around the whole thing is about Jake was saying about living in the real world. It also has to do with like being human, which I don't know. I don't like Barbie questions. She has an existential crisis, right? She starts talking about death, and then at the end of the movie, she decides to become human. And the way to become human, so the Barbie creator tells us, is to have feeling. I don't know if that was really. I don't know if that was developed.
I don't think it was, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think it was. I think there were 3 times, maybe. I think really just 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the most emotional points in the film.
Yeah.
I felt during those. I was like, yo.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And the music was getting me too. The piano thing that was getting there, and I was like, don't you fucking cry because of music.
Anyway, was this movie good or bad? I don't know. Was this film about feminism or masculinity? I don't know. But rating.
Yeah, hey, we're going to rate this movie, and then we're going to go and see Oppenheimer, guys. So let's give this movie a rating. I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 10.
Whoa!
Visuals were nice, and I like the outfits and the set design.
Whoa.
Yep.
I was going to give it like a 6.
No, this is not an average movie.
Well, 5's average.
I know. So it's not an average movie, so it can't be above average.
I am become Barbie.
Destroyer of kins.
Alan. Do you know what this bomb will do to the world?
Hold on, now we gotta do an extreme close-up.
I have dreams.
That's right, everybody. We just got back from seeing Oppenheimer. As you can tell, it is a different part of the day. And let me just say, thank God we saw this 1 second.
Yes, the bomb has just exploded in my pants, as in I shit myself.
I have a lot of good things to say about this movie, and I have one critique that I can't quite articulate yet, so I'm going to save that for the end to try to help my brain think. Hey, let's start with what worked.
God, look, guys, Nolan, I mean, I hate to be this way. It's like the opposite of a Marvel movie, that sort of idea. It was a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, in every aspect, it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The score was amazing. Visually, it was amazing with cinematography. Lighting was well done. Performances were well done. There was some interesting cerebral stuff going on all around. I mean, he doesn't miss. Even when he does miss with Tenet, sorry, Kyle. He still doesn't miss in that aspect. This hyper realism, sort of very low key shadows that just work so well.
Yeah, the just like Jake said, man, visually, auditorily, just everything comes together in this film, and it really is just like the combination of his past works. It really is, man, and I'm so glad I got to see it on IMAX. Personally, this was just like after seeing Barbie and just being kind of like depressed and sad. You go to the theater and you watch a movie that talks about a very serious existential problem, and yet manages to do it in a way that it doesn't feel like I was preached to for what would have been 3 hours. Yeah. And it told an interesting story about a person everybody knows of, kind of ancillarily, but if that's a word, I know ancillary is a word, but anyways,
ancillarily.
Yeah. It's a person that everybody knows, but people don't really know anything much about them.
Right.
And so that's a perfect person to do, like as Ash said, a biopic, which I don't necessarily agree that that's what this film is, even though it's a historical.
Yeah, well, I think it may have been marketed that way, or it was perceived that way. But I do agree that his character was a good canvas for telling the story of the development of the bomb.
Yeah.
There was a near 0% chance that the world would end.
But yeah. And they were like, we gotta do it, man.
The Japan, bro.
Yeah. That's what's so good about this movie is that it doesn't just present one side of the argument and then just say everything else is completely stupid and bad. Mm-hmm. It actually gives credence to opposing views. Like he says, like, the reason we need to make this atom bomb, even though Germany's surrendered and Hitler is gone, they were like, well, Japan's still on the rise, and then years later, he admits to saying, like, yeah, like, I'm pretty sure, like, we would have won and we didn't need to do the atom bomb. And that adds a lot of texture to this story. That adds a lot of nuance, something that is missing from a lot of movies. And it's just like, man, I'm still in the processing phase of watching a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah. The idea of the atom bomb in itself, and he was very, very smart about this. There is already tension built into that topic, and he does everything to build on that. Like when the bomb was about to go off, and it was a straight 90 seconds that we were sitting there.
Yeah.
It was counting down, and this is kind of going off topic we're talking about, and then we see it, and it's silent. And everybody's reacting to it when that goes off, and you're still like,
yeah, you're completely frozen, and then when the sound hits, man, it punctures you. And I had a full bladder at this point in the movie, and I didn't leave, even though I always leave during like 3-hour movies to pee, because I didn't want to miss anything. And the explosion hit through the speakers, and I got a little bit of a wet underwear. But
hey, link in the description if you want to buy it. We'll put it on our Etsy shop.
Yes, I had sweaty palms through a lot of the movie, because one of the best things about this movie, pacing, editing, and tension, which I think all come together. You might disagree, and I know why you're going to disagree. Because the editing was very fast, and there wasn't a lot of time to breathe on a lot of the things, and that doesn't help too when you're also changing formats, like filming formats between IMAX and Jesus Christ. But
rest in peace.
I think that added to the tension and the pacing, because the whole idea of creating the atom bomb that smells really fucking bad, it's a race.
Yeah.
It's a race against everybody, and I think it's able to capture that need for speed. I think it captures that while still maintaining the necessary plot and story progression.
And this is why I'm conflicted about that, is because I agree with that statement. However, it felt like I was going the same speed the entire movie. There were very, very few times when the score was not active and not tense. So when I'm at this level the entire time, it gets difficult for me to process when things are changing. Because it does slow down, but it also picks up. But a lot of the time it's, pretty steady.
Flatlined high.
Now I will say, I think that heightens when it is silent. So the entire film is at this intense level, but then when everything goes away, it is very, very jarring.
Yeah.
And the main time it happens is in the midpoint, which is crazy when the bomb explodes.
Right. Which I wasn't expecting.
I was not either. And everything goes away, and what should be this very loud, thunderous, enormous thing that you're like, wow, is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And I don't think that could have been achieved if it fluctuated more.
Right. Well, this film takes almost the exact opposite approach of every other film in terms of that sound design aspect of it, where most films will do quiet and ramp up to the loud bang, right? Whereas this film is like, I'm going to start high, stay high, and then we're going to have a silence as the height of the sound, which again is like really cool.
Yes.
It is so interesting, man. Oh my god, man! I'm gushing over this film. This is really good.
He's a big Nolan fan.
I am a big Nolan fan. By the way, this movie completely pertains to my theory about Nolan's pragmatic lives. You should go.
Be on this one or this one. There's going to be a card somewhere.
One of these, yeah. Anyways, go and watch that after you watch this. It's one of our first videos ever.
I wanted more story.
Okay.
Glad you said a plot-centric film. And there's a lot to get to, and I kind of mentioned this. It's a film about Oppenheimer, but it's really not about Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the struggle of sort of the idea of having a weapon, and you have to get through a lot. And it didn't feel like the story was about Oppenheimer. It felt like the story was about the case, which was maybe 15, 20% of the film.
I would say like 30 max.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I was talking with Ash on the ride back, and I was one thing that Nolan absolutely nailed in Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Inception, and Interstellar.
What did I say?
What he nailed in those 4 movies specifically, not saying that he doesn't in the other ones, but those ones specifically, is having a true and deep emotional core about the relationships between 2 characters at its core.
Yeah.
And that is what heightens those films to be so revered and so loved. And I know it's like, anything that becomes popular has to go through a period of saying that it's bad, because there are people saying that Inception's bad and stuff. And I understand the critiques, but you're wrong. But at the same time, this film doesn't have that really, really strong core, that revelation at the end that creates a sense of catharsis for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get that on an intellectual level. I don't know if you get it on a feeling level.
That and I think, and this sort of goes with Death Stranding too, which that game is amazing. Oppenheimer, Oppie, also gets gypped from his catharsis.
Mm.
Because when the bombs go off in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he is like just sitting in a room, like he's just in Los Alamos, and he hears it on the radio. And so this feat that he has created, that he has organized, he doesn't get to celebrate it really. He doesn't get to be there, right? And so I think that there is some sort of cerebral connection there. But again, it's. We go to movies to feel, as she says.
Right,
we just don't.
All important.
We just don't feel that.
Yeah, it's really hard to put like my finger on it, and this is like my difficulty with nailing down, because I think the theme has something to do with control. I don't know. That might not be the right word for it either. I really am struggling to put a word to this, which I think lends credence to the fact that it must be good, because I'm not able to easily identify what irks me about something.
You're only going to get it if you watch Rick and Morty. Let's put it
right. Well, yeah, obviously. It's definitely a solid entry. I'm a Tenet defender, but I also understand that it's one of his weakest films, if not his weakest. So this one is definitely better than Tenet, just on the fact that I could hear the dialogue is already...
Well, for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
Kyle is a Nolan stan.
Yeah.
I am not.
I'm a Nolan stan. I'm gonna die one day.
$10.
Yeah, I feel like that's not wrong, really.
It's no Interstellar. I'll say that. It's no Interstellar.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, like Interstellar has this like true like emotional chord to it, and it's like the line that he says in Tenet, where it's like, try not to think about it, you have to feel it. And that's where Nolan works best, where he has all of these really heightened ideas intellectually, and under that is an emotional core that if you don't get the ideas, you understand that feeling, man, and you empathize with the characters because of that. And I'm not saying that that's not present here. I'm not saying that at all, because it is there. I just don't think it quite hits.
Well, we didn't get the time to really deal with those.
And that's part of why the pacing doesn't necessarily help for the story. I completely agree with that. I have to go see this again in theaters. And I expect all of you, after watching our review, the only people you respect on the internet to give you an opinion on this really memeable movie.
Jeremy Johns, get out of here, bro.
Yeah,
Angry Joe, get out.
I know nobody's gonna review this movie, and you're definitely gonna see this review first on YouTube. So because of our recommendation, please definitely go see Oppenheimer. Give people money for movies that are not created
for IP and money.
For IP, and also not created by just a board of people who did not work on the film.
Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm ready for the Oppenheimer like expanded universe.
Oh, we get spin-offs?
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
background on Einstein over there in like Sweden or wherever he was.
What's your rating?
I'm gonna play it safe and say 8.5 out of 10.
Great.
But on rewatch, it might lower to 9 or lower to 7. Or excuse me, raise to 9 or lower to 7.
And that's sort of how I feel. I'm gonna set it an 8 for now. Rating movies is tough.
It really is.
It really is because
it's all comparative.
Because if I say Barbie 6, and I give Oppenheimer a 7.5.
Right. It seems like it's not that much better, but yeah.
But it is. So I'm gonna lower Barbie to 5. I'm gonna give Oppenheimer a 7.5.
You would lower Barbie.
What?
Sexism. Because you said you lowered her.
So I did.
Like, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Shut up. Anyway, I don't think it'll get lower, but I do think it may get higher. It's a very good film.
Yeah.
It's a very good film. It's a well-crafted film.
Best live action film that we've gotten this year.
It was creative and artistic and I'll say that. I'll agree with that.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for watching our BFD review. We plan on uploading still, like we said in the last video. We did our 1-year celebration, but here's how things are going to be from now on. They're going to be a little bit different. They're going to be a little bit exciting. And you know what? You should tell all your friends to subscribe to us so that we can hit 1,000 subscribers like tomorrow. So I give you 8 minutes.
Florence, phew. Hey, dub for the boys on that.